Hi, Sheelagh. Thanks for doing this. Welcome to TDA Talks.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If you've seen some of the other episodes, I usually start just by getting everyone to say their name and where they're based, and for you, maybe tell us what your profession is as well.
For sure, yeah. So my name is Sheelagh. I'm from Toronto, Canada. And professionally, I do a bunch of things all related to nutrition and cycling and bike touring. So I work in a bike shop, I do nutrition workshops, and I make videos about nutrition and bike touring.
Right, and so one of the reasons I thought that it would be great to interview you is you have your own YouTube channel. Did you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So I have a YouTube channel. It's called Sheelagh Daly. I'm sure we'll link it below. But yeah, I basically make videos about nutrition and cycle touring and nutrition for cycle touring, and kind of chronicle my bicycle adventures when I head out on them.
Yeah, that's great. And so for us during this downtime, we've been doing a lot of work to give out some free and really useful information to our audience and on training for a tour and what to pack. And so as soon as I noticed that you cover like cycle touring and nutrition, I thought that'd be a great thing for us to dive into. I wanted to ask you a little bit just so people understand who you are and where you're from. Yeah, maybe tell us about your cycle touring experiences. Where have you cycle toured and why do you enjoy it?
For sure. So the bulk of my cycle touring experience so far is a trip I did in 2019. I spent 3.5 months cycling solo around Scotland and then from Scotland to Croatia. Completely fell in love with it, and just knew I wanted to do more and more of it. So I would say about a third of the time I was camping, about a third of the time I was using warm showers to stay with other bike tours, and then about a third of the time, mostly in cities, I would use hostels.
People ask this all the time and I never have a good answer for it, but it's a standard question. Do you have a favorite memory from your big cycle touring trip?
Yeah, it's so hard, right? Because that's the beautiful thing about bike touring is it's all like this incredible journey and you end up
Yeah.
just loving all of it. I guess I would say most of my favorite memories are often tied to just the people that I met. I think bike touring really creates this incredible community of people that are so supportive, and so I met a lot of them through using warm showers. Met a lot of them on the road. People would just ask me to join them in their riding or offer for me to stay with them. And then also my mom, who did TDA, that's how I found out she did the Tour d'Afrique. She had still friends from when she did it who were kind of across Europe, and I got to stay with some of them and meet some of them.
Oh, great.
And just experience those places in a really unique way, like with people that live there. So I would say it's really just the people that you meet that are so supportive and kind and generous, and getting to learn from them was just wonderful.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. I think it's sort of one of the intangibles about cycle touring that I don't think many people spend a lot of time thinking about that before their trip. They're so focused on the route and, they have some highlights they want to see along the way. Or for us on a group tour, maybe, they're anxious about meeting their fellow riders. But I know for me, like, I don't think a lot pre-trip about the people you meet in the villages and in the shops and restaurants, and it's such a rich part of the experience. It's a really big part of the experience in the end.
It is, and I think bike touring allows you to experience it in a really unique way, because whereas if you're in a car and you're kind of cut off during that period of time that you're driving, or if you're backpacking and you're on a train, when you're on a bike, you're always, exposed. You're always having these opportunities to interact with people. And you're also a bit of an oddity because you're on a bike. And so it's really easy to meet people and make friends and learn about the culture and where you are. So it's just such a special way to travel.
What would you say was the hardest thing about your trip? Or one of the harder
Oh,
things?
that's a good question. I guess because the interesting thing is, like, there are lots of hard things about bike touring, right? You have difficult weather conditions, difficult road conditions, altitude, boredom sometimes. So there are so many things that are challenging about it, but ultimately, like, those things end up being my favorite things because that's where you learn and that's where you grow. And like, I feel like I grew so much as a person from that bike tour. And so there are challenges, but I think if you try to stay in that kind of positive mindset and like gratitude for just getting to do this crazy experience, even when it's hard, you end up just loving, in a kind of sick way, those hard experiences because, that's where you grow and that's where there is a lot of magic to be found. So there's definitely a lot of challenges that come with it, but that's what makes it just such a unique experience.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good answer. Yeah, like it's all about almost every day is like overcoming some sort of challenges that you didn't foresee. So it builds a lot of resilience, I find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel like resilience is such a good word for what you experience when bike touring.
I was doing a little bit of research on you before the call and some different things you've done. So you've done some acting, like stage acting in the past, and as you mentioned at the top, you're a nutritionist as well. So did you mind just touching on a couple of those things or anything else from your past that might be of
For
interest?
sure. Yeah. So yes, I studied theater and acting in university. And then I worked professionally as an actor for 6 years. And then I was really interested in nutrition, so I went back to school for nutrition, kind of planning to do half nutrition, half acting. And then I just kind of wound my way over the years, kind of just following my passion and following my intuition towards what I'm doing now, which is, merging those two things as well as bike touring, because that's probably my biggest passion. To kind of create videos because that satisfies my love of creativity and a lot of those skills that I learned in school, while also speaking to those other things I'm passionate about, like nutrition and bike touring.
We had been talking to you about working on one of our supported cycling trips, and of course the pandemic had a part in disrupting that, but I'm sure at some point we'll get that done and you'll get a chance to work on the trip. So I thought while you're on camera, this would be a great opportunity if you had any questions for me about working on a tour, or if there's anything you wanted to say, what excites you or what makes you nervous about working on a supported trip.
Oh, yeah. So, I think working on a TDA tour would be a dream of mine in so many ways. What really excites me is, I've done kind of solo bike touring and ridden with people along the way, but something that I think is really special about doing a supported tour is you're being part of that community, being part of those kind of riders and the staff that are together for a longer period of time and experiencing so much together. I think that's really, really special, really beautiful. So that's something that would very much excite me. In terms of questions, like, I feel like I have a million questions. Like, I could just sit here all day because I'm just so excited and so curious. But, I've also researched, like, I've also read the bios of the incredible guides that you work with. So I also know that myself and other riders are going to be in, like, the best of hands, and that I'll be able to ask questions and learn along the way. If you were to give, like, one tip or piece of advice to a staff member on their first TDA tour, what would it be?
Yeah, good question. I would say some staff are surprised by how much work it is, and for people who've done a lot of cycling or who are cyclists, working on a cycling tour doesn't necessarily involve as much cycling as you'd probably want to, right? So some days feel just like pure work and they can be long days. And you know, I compare it to, so you work in a bike shop, I used to work in a bike shop, and I used to tell people, it's like, imagine you're working at a bike shop, but you go home with the clients at the end of the day and you all camp together and then you get up together. And it's really true, like it's a 24-hour job in a way. So that's my long-winded way of saying, you know, expect to have long days and do some hard work from time to time for sure, but also recognize what your limits are and make sure you build in time for yourself regularly so that you don't burn out, and that's super important. And sometimes that means like taking a day off work and riding the route, you know, asking the other staff if they can, you can shuffle things around to give you an opportunity to ride that day. So there's always ways to make it happen, and it's sort of, the onus is on each of us as staff to sort of carve out that time for yourself during the trip. So that'd be my first piece of advice.
I love that. I think it's great advice and only makes me more excited. So
Well,
I'm
good.
ready. I'm ready. Put me to work. Put me to work. Yeah,
Perfect.
I think I'm excited for the exhilaration of the long days.
Good. Excellent. You have some great videos on this on your channel, and I'll link to those, but did you want to give a very brief overview of, you know, some tips for cycle tourists and nutrition?
For sure, yeah. The biggest thing is definitely just to eat enough. That's the biggest thing. Eat more than you think you need to eat. Because something to keep in mind is that when we're exercising, our digestion slows down because it's diverting that energy to our muscles. And so we might not get those same hunger cues, but our body is just burning through fuel, burning through nutrients. So making sure that we're eating regularly, especially during cycling, that we're getting carbohydrates in, because those are going to be the quickest source of fuel. So anything kind of sweet or starchy that's easy to digest. And drinking enough water is a big one. Having like a sip every 15 minutes or so, just getting that into your routine. And then kind of topping up your salt stores whenever you can is going to be helpful, just to keep those muscles firing. So I would say, like, those are the basics: is enough food, enough water, and some salt. And if it's helpful, I did also, I'm sure you'll link it below, but I did create like a downloadable guide that has recipes and a bunch of different nutrition tips and stuff that were kind of what I live by. So I can send that link over and people can download that too.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely link to that. Is there anything else you wanted to cover about your channel, or anything else you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, and also my thanks to, I think TDA has done such a great job at kind of keeping everyone updated on kind of what's going on and what's next and what you're trying to do to keep staff and riders safe and everything. So I think that's been so wonderful, I think, for lots of people.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And yeah, we're trying our best. It's, as everyone knows, it's so challenging that the news, the information we have changes every day. And so we have to do our best to keep on top of it and keep everyone informed. So yeah, it's been good. Well, thank you very much. We'll put some links in the description that people can check out. But I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And I hope you have a great afternoon.
It's been a pleasure. You too.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye.